Hey! No.
That was not good. Content, and the Wade and Carter Show bears all responsibilities for their opinions and guests on their show.
City Manager Jesus Garza joins us. We'll talk ERCOT. All that coming up on today's Wade and Carter Show.
Can I unplug this and plug it back in?
Let's go over the ground. Rule number 1. No touching of the head or face.
Bam.
That's it. Now let's do this.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Let's do this.
Folks, the Wade and Carter First Thing in the Morning weather is brought to you by the great friends we have at Deerland Feed. It's 55 degrees and cloudy in Victoria, heading to a high today of 73. Should be sunny all day. It's going to be a beautiful day.
Good.
The freeze of 21 is basically behind us.
It is behind us, thankfully.
We're moving forward. We're making Victoria great again. No, wait. Victoria is back.
Yeah,
that's
there
the
we
deal.
go. Yeah, so I thought this was interesting, and just to kind of get us going. You're
going to jump right into interesting, right off the bat.
Just into something. Well, no, you know what? Let me get Facebook up.
I was going to say, just like that. Were you really going to just go like it's a Monday?
Yeah, I was going to.
You were just going to jump right into interesting.
I watched the NHL Outdoor Classic. I don't know if they call it the Winter Classic outdoor game. It was they played in Lake Tahoe this week.
Tough duty.
I thought it was pretty cool because it was on the lakeside. There were no stands. There were shadows of the people. That's the old one. I don't know where we are here today.
I don't know.
They had no stands. The rink was built lakeside. It looked very much like the old.
People just stood around the ice rink.
There were no fans.
Car lights,
but it looked
shining
kind
on
of
the
like
ice.
that in a way. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the old
Field of Dreams.
It was very much the old. It was very much old outdoor rink like experience.
If you build it,
did we lose our video?
No, I don't think so.
There we go.
I look fantastic. What are you talking about?
Justin Glass first in. Good morning to you. Kendra Douglas. David Glass is in. Clint Ives. Clint Ives can't count. He thought he was
Good
second.
morning, Clint.
He's about fourth. Third loser. Marvin Mickers, good morning. Richard King, Judge Posey, Bobby Leister, Scott Snow, Patrick Strauss, Michelle Hawkins is in. Brent Anderson, Sheriff Louderback.
Wow. Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Sheriff Louderback. And hello, Zip.
Leisterometer at 738. H.R. Mallory, Scott Tomko, Karen Webb, Jason Brannon. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, JB.
Robin Moore Knipling. Appreciate everybody checking in this morning.
Our guest walked in a little bit early. Did you notice he was walking around? He's in our new digs here at Magic 95.9. Did you notice he was assessing square footage? I mean, I think we're going to get taxed on this. I don't know what's happening.
He's not on that board.
I thought we were a vital public service. All of a sudden,
checking in.
Oh, they'll find a way to tax us. My big concern, is when I say they, Dawn will say, who is they? Good morning, T-Lab. I know you're out there. She listens on the radio now. Our expanded radio coverage takes her all the way to Inez and back, all the way to Goliad and back. You can hear us in Bloomington. Danny Garcia can hear us.
You can hear us in Nursery. I checked that out the other day to make sure, and that was never the case.
So that said, does it give you any concern or pause, or am I just a conspiracy guy that it irks me a little bit that in the name of global health or whatever, the CDC now is going to have the ability, or they're seeking the ability, to do this contact trace deal where they want all sorts of folks to give them names, addresses, who you're
Well, they've been doing that with contact tracing anyway. That's part of it.
So but is that good? Is that good? Is that Big
If
Brother?
they don't hold on to the information for any reason, if they're just using it strictly for the contact tracing, then I don't see an issue with it.
So
if they're storing that information somewhere they shouldn't be,
we're
which I don't think
thinking-
they should, because
Right.
they haven't asked for your permission to do so.
And they would never do that without your permission, is kind of where I'm leading, right? There's no way your government would keep data about you without your permission, right? Because we trust them.
Yeah.
Because they're with the government. I don't even know what I'm afraid of. I'm just afraid of the endless, seemingly, it's the intrusion to me.
Yeah.
Why can't I walk down to that HEB, buy a loaf of bread, and walk back without Big Brother knowing about it?
You should be able to.
I guess if I left my phone at home, that would work. So
You
to get
should be
around
able- you
that
should be
soon,
able
they're going
to.
to put a chip in you.
Yeah.
Going to put a chip in you.
Final thoughts on the Ted Cruz flap. I think the UK Daily Mail had like 60 pictures to accompany their article on
Of
that.
Teddy.
Yeah. I mean, how stupid.
It just triggered the left, and it gave them an opportunity to go nuts. I will tell you.
Was it the Washington Post or somebody posted out there a bunch of Ted Cruz needs to rethink his friends.
Fair.
Because somebody leaked their group email chat to, I think, the Washington Post.
Yeah, that's not cool. But did he say, I'm looking forward to getting away for a couple of days?
I don't know. It was, I didn't read it all. I just, they were, and of course they remained anonymous, but it had to be somebody who had access to that chat unless somebody hacked their cell phones, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was Ben Shapiro that pointed out it was interesting that Twitter didn't ban that, like they banned the New York Post Hunter Biden laptop because it couldn't be confirmed, or because it would have done damage to.
There you go,
Joe.
Because the Main Street media and the big tech companies are anti-right.
Yeah.
It is interesting though that I'm not a huge Ted Cruz fan. I like Ted Cruz a lot more than I like John Cornyn. But I can tell you that Ted Cruz made a huge PR gaffe.
Oh yeah, it was dumb.
I mean, it was a dumb thing to do. To decide to blow to Cancun in the middle of your state being frozen.
And I don't blame the guy personally.
But you know what? I mean, literally,
but it was dumb. He could have sent Heidi and the kids and stayed behind.
Yeah, although given the way the left gets triggered and the way people get picked on and the fact that Democrats were calling for those concerned to harass and harangue Republicans in public, maybe Ted Cruz as a dad and husband didn't want to put his wife and kids on that plane without him there. Which may bring me back to the fact that
now he's just a male chauvinist.
he's misogynistic. Brings you back to maybe he shouldn't have gone at all. Maybe the timing wasn't good. But it's not like they were leaving Texas, folks. They were probably leaving D.C., weren't they?
No, I think they were leaving their frozen house in Houston because they had no heat and no power.
Right.
And, yeah.
Water was out.
Yeah. They had an ability to go somewhere warm.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen to that. I think, Beto is probably going to run for governor. So I don't know who's going to challenge Cruz next time.
AOC. She's going to move here now. You watch. No, I'm kidding.
Wouldn't put it past her, no.
Curious how much money she personally donated, or did she just make phone calls and tweet it out? And
interesting that, right? Hats off to her, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to her, kind of. It's kind of hard to. She's
not
from
at
New
all,
York.
yeah.
She reached out to, a bunch of people in Texas, organized some things.
Yeah,
One thing
no,
the
I
left can
agree.
do, they can organize. They can organize. So she did a pretty good gig there.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I think the media deserves some criticism. Joe Biden was asked, I think it was Friday, he was leaving a press conference, and here's his little trick. Watch what he does, because this tends to be the clip that always gets played by the media. So it's a planted question. It's a setup charade in my opinion, but. He was walking out of a press conference. It wasn't at the White House, I don't think. It looked like it was somewhere off-site. And as he's leaving, somebody asks him a question. He comes back to the mic and he answers the question. And they asked him if he was going to come to Texas in the wake of the natural disaster. And he said that he was going to come probably this week, but he didn't want to get in the way. And there were media outlets saying, well, Donald Trump would have been down there handing water bottles out.
Right. And
I'm like, good for Donald Trump. And he even explained, when the president lands, there's a long tail that's attached to that landing, and we use resources. And unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where politicos have to get involved in the press opportunity of looking like they're compassionate and caring.
Right.
That's where we are as a society. And it's a societal problem that unless the government shows up in that way, shape, or form, for whatever reason, we can't feel vindicated. We can't feel whole again. We can't feel that we're on the right path.
Texans aren't important enough because he went to choose a state.
But I don't fault Joe Biden for waiting because what's he going to do? Seriously. And same thing, Donald Trump. Well, Trump would have been down there handing out water bottles. Who cares?
Right. Send an extra 500,000 water bottles and let Donald Trump stay there. The other side of that is, we accurately reported and made fun of Greg Abbott cleaning up debris in Rockport.
Yeah.
After Harvey. Okay, thanks, Gov. That just doesn't work. It's purely a photo op, and it may be a placation to the masses, but it just emphasizes that government in general thinks people are stupid. Hey, you're stupid. You'll fall for this. You'll think that I'm really caring.
Now, I would argue that Joe Biden might be playing it off a little bit to avoid the heat for his executive order that basically forced Texas to buy power and not generate power because of environmental concerns.
Yeah.
When we could have been generating enough power to possibly avoid the issues that we had. I'm not saying
perfect storm. A lot of times these gas-fired power plants, they take them offline at certain times of the year because they're easy to maintain and the demand is traditionally low. And here we were. We thought that winter was over. Matt Beauchene, he's better than Punxsutawney Phil. Matt Beauchene said winter is over. So these guys start tearing down these power plants to get the maintenance done to get ready for the summer heat. And all of a sudden, the classic perfect storm comes in. We've got no juice. It is unfortunate that the South Texas nuclear project, still continues to make news for the wrong reasons. Besides being such a beautiful, perfect form of energy, it turns around and, for lack of an eraser, the pencil is lost. We've got one little feeder line that freezes and the whole plant trips offline due to, quadrangles of redundant safety, which good for them. It ought to trip, but it's something they should be on top of. Yeah. So, hey, let's take a break real quick. Tell you about Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Let Allen come in, help you with all your towing needs. They've been super swamped busy, but they've got time for you.
We're going to get into the ERCOT Biden executive or Department of Energy executive order later this week because we've got Congressman Cloud joining us, and I think that'll be front and center topic of discussion.
Yep. Throw in 578-6300, Allen's Wrecker Service. The VCS Company is our banner sponsor. Proud today to welcome Jesus Garza, Victoria City Manager, into studio.
He's wearing his Kevlar today because he knows he's probably going to take some shots from listeners and callers.
And you're welcome to call him. He said, hey, I want to get out amongst your people, 575-9509. Feel free to call. That, by the way, is your shirt. And then you throw in Chestnut Furniture Company, 101 years in downtown Victoria, 116 West Warren Lynn, the corner of Warren Lynn and Bridge.
Soft material is perfect for being perfect.
Right. Nice. See, he said her changing your oil. Thanks. We gave the city manager a T-shirt, which of course is he's not an elected official. He doesn't have to declare that. No. We gave him a T-shirt, and Ash said he'll probably use it to change his oil.
Well, I do because they're comfortable when laying underneath the vehicle.
W and the C will have the oil on it. Chestnut Furniture Company, folks. Bobby Leon and his family have just done great work, and they are great supporters of this program. So be sure to support those that support us as, we bring you the stuff straight from the source. And then Veracruz Restaurant, open again today. The water boil ban is over, whatever you want to call it. The ban
has been lifted.
The
order has been lifted.
The order has been lifted. So very excited to get back to Veracruz this week. So why don't you introduce our guest, and I'll go move our.
Okay.
You can move the video?
Yeah, I can go
You can
move
move the video. Okay. Well, we're very pleased this morning to have Victoria's City Manager Jesus Garza in studio with us. We talk to you all the time about news straight from the source and all that, and so we have the man himself. He's here. He's always very accessible. There are numerous times that I'll call to ask him a question about something, and he's always been very good to help us clarify what we're going to babble about. We don't just make this stuff up. A lot of times we actually go to the source and find out what's going on. Sometimes he has told me that on occasion we get it wrong, but in general, we try to reach out to him.
You mean we didn't make up this freeze that occurred last week?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing better this morning. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Adam Daughtry says he thinks you're doing a great job. So there's one listener in your corner. At least there's one.
Yeah, that's all we need. It's just one.
Yeah, so
Just one. That's all it takes. Well, tell us, I know you've got thoughts in your head about how this should go. So just start. Tell us what happened. Tell us what you think Victoria needs to know, like, what you didn't know is.
Sure. Well, I'd like to start off with a couple of comments. One is that absolutely I agree with everybody's sentiments that this should not have happened at all. Absolutely, it is our responsibility at the city managing the utility to ensure that it's prepared for whatever scenario. I own that. We get that. We take that very personal. It is our responsibility to ensure that our residents do not go through what they went through. With that said, there, as of now, no silver bullet either on exactly what occurred that led to the loss of water pressure.
I've heard a lot of rumors. Everybody left their pipes or their taps on. Would that have caused?
Sure, yeah.
Are some of these legit or some of these just wives' tales?
It's 100% legit.
Okay.
We know that it's a combination of various factors. We know for a fact that we had a couple of gauges that froze over that were causing some false reads. We know for sure that people were leaving faucets open, not dripping, open.
Wide open.
We were literally sent copies of emails that apartment complex management companies were sending to their residents, tenants, saying, leave everything completely on, not dripping, on. We know that we also had several breaks and leaks. And it's important to note that when it comes to the water system, it's not solely just the pipes that are the responsibility of the city. It's everybody's pipes, right? If there's a leak or break on your property or on a resident's property, that impacts and depletes the water source just the same as if the leak happened to be under a street. And so the reality is that in this particular case, we had pipes burst, break, etc., all over the system. Even just as of yesterday afternoon, we had over 700 requests for meter shutoffs. That's a tremendous amount of requests when in a normal week we only get about 14.
Yeah.
And so it's really a combination of all those factors. Now that we're kind of things are calming down a little bit, we absolutely do plan on doing a more thorough analysis and investigation to really kind of discern and figure out, okay, what truly went wrong, and maybe there is still a silver bullet out there that we just haven't come across. But the reality is that it's a combination of all those factors, and there are things that we know that we can look at and invest on. The one thing that I do want to also make clear, because we're still hearing a lot of rumors about it, is that this was not related to power. During Harvey, that absolutely was what happened. Our water plant lost power and stopped pumping water, which made it very difficult, obviously, to have water running through the system. This was an entirely, completely different situation. Our water plant did not lose power. We actually, since Harvey, have invested in generators that we have at our plants. So had we lost power, the traditional power, we would have been okay with the generators.
The problem here is you would have been pumping water, but with all the water main or water pipe breaks, you would have been pumping it just into the ground, basically, right?
Well, we were pumping water, and so, for example, some folks that live on the north side of town, had decent water pressure throughout the whole week. And so the other big difference from this situation from Harvey was that, again, we never lost the water plant. And so there was water that was being pumped into the system. The problem is that there just wasn't sufficient water running through the system. And so with the system starting, in this particular case, starting at the north side, once those gravity fed lines went south, if you lived in Lake Forest, you were probably getting decent, water pressure. But then obviously as it moves down, well, there's just not enough water to make it all the way down.
I want to dispel the idea that Victoria was like unique in some way. I think every Texas city had some type of water issue probably during this storm. When you say, have you heard from some of your peers?
Well, what we know from TCQ, which is the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality, is that at least as of yesterday, half of Texas was under a water blow, with over 13 communities under a water blow. I mean, I couldn't tell you, the cause for those water blows. We know that some communities did lose power. And they're learning now what we learned in Harvey, which is you probably should get a generator for those plants. And so we know that played a big factor. But we also know that there were other things. It's no secret that, I have family and friends in San Antonio, and I had some of them that literally went a whole week without water at all. And we're talking the 7th largest city in the country. And they had some residents that went without any water for a week.
Austin is still under a water boil, I believe.
Right, but they may have water pressure. Yeah. I'm saying that there's some residents that don't have water pressure.
You turn the faucet and nothing happens.
And so I hope that as things kind of go back to normal-ish, we can celebrate the great work that hundreds of employees did to get us back on track. And so that's the other point that I want to make sure I verbalize and thank literally the hundreds of employees that had to deal with their own personal circumstances, because they caught everybody off guard, right? I mean, including them at home, including us at home. And so everybody had to balance that. And our employees did a tremendous job to get the water flowing through the entire system, literally within 72 hours, which at the end of the day, in my opinion, is a huge success. It's literally less than a third of the time that we did during Harvey. Lifted the water blow also within a third of the time that occurred during Harvey. And so for me, it's very important that, yes, we weren't perfect. Yes, there were issues that happened, but we were better, and we're going to continue getting better.
Well, to me, given that this was kind of a perfect storm, and it's obviously, it's not, it's almost impossible to say, prepare for this. But now that you know where you're at.
No, and even those that did prepare were still impacted.
But what is there a path? If I gave you a magic wand, if I gave you endless money, is there something that could be done now to prevent this from happening again? Because we've got notes over here. People are saying, hey, our roads and infrastructure should be the most important thing, and yada, yada, yada. I have a feeling we'll invest in our water system before we invest in another water pad for the kids in the summer. So I'm trying to figure out, if I gave you, pick a number, $50 million, $100 million, if you had the money, what could you do to make sure this just, this will keep it from ever happening again?
Well, one, we do invest in infrastructure, right? I mean, we literally are in the middle of changing the entire capital improvement process, so we've done a lot of research on it, and I can tell you that in the last 20 years, the city has spent literally over $500 million. That's over $500 million on infrastructure. The challenge is we probably haven't done a great job of communicating it, and so there's still a lot of sentiment that we haven't done much, when in reality we have. I mean, I'm glad that we're here because you're seeing it firsthand. I mean, North Heights, for example, that's right across the street, has gone over the last 6 or 7 years, has gone through a major transformation. I mean, the entire utility system in that section of town is being replaced and upgraded. The streets are getting redone. As a matter of fact, at the council meeting tonight, we're awarding phase 6 of the street construction project for that. This year, we're doing phase 7 of the utility replacement project. All in all, that project is between $20 and $25 million spread out over 7 years, just for North Heights, to give you a sense of how expensive these infrastructure upgrades are. But anyway, but going back to your question, I think it's a combination of factors. One of the things that I'm a big fan of is technology. It's no secret, that one of my big objectives is trying to see, okay, where are we from a technological standpoint? And we know that we have some technology that and when I say we, I mean residents, the city, et cetera, are leveraging to its full capacity, that we need to do that. And so, for example, I don't know how many people listening out there have an account with our utility system to get notices and alerts when your water usage goes up after a certain point. So people could be better at setting that up to identify when there have leaks breaks, etc.
Is it like an iPad app? I mean, or an app for the phone?
Well, it's an actual website. So, I mean, we have a website that if you go to our utility billing department website, you can create an account and literally track your daily progress. You can put in alerts. So, for example, if you normally use 300 gallons a day, you can put a daily alert that if you ever went over 350, you're going to get a text message or a call saying, hey.
Because you may have a leak. Right? You may have left the faucet on.
Right. Yeah. And so the city has had this platform for a couple of years now, but it hasn't been fully leveraged. And so one of the things that we were going to do is embark on a pretty more intentional campaign effort to get as many people involved with that and plugged in with that. And we need to invest in technology that helps us do that at a better degree with our big players, because we have big customers, right? Victoria College, UHV, the school district, that they themselves have tremendous amount of water distribution systems that, for example, if the school district has, their own water main line break, I mean, that's significant, right? I mean, if we have a break at our house, I mean, sure, it's significant in volume, right, if you have a ton of houses, but just for one, it's not a big deal. But if you have a school district that has a six-inch, water main line that bursts, I mean, that's significant. And so we know that technology can help us do a better job of getting us in live, information to be able to know. Because of course during a storm, it's very unlikely that somebody's gonna notice because everybody's hunkered down.
They've got that really slick web page now that, I mean, it's kind of like a combination of like a municipal web page and Netflix. Like you can watch Yellowstone on there and get updates about what's happening at city council. It's all going on. It's all part of the Victoria network.
Yeah, true. And so one of the other things that's going to come up is the concept of weatherization. I think that's going to be huge. I mean, you're hearing them talk about it in the electrical grid concept or venue or platform or whatever. But I think there's a legitimate other platform to discuss weatherization as it relates to water utilities.
Do we know for a fact that might have been an issue? Water lines maybe weren't buried as deep as they could have been to avoid the thaw or heaving?
We certainly know that the weatherization issue that I'm referring to is more at the water tower sites with the gauges and things of that sort, not necessarily the pipes in the ground. We did have some leaks and breaks in the ground, but nothing that was a silver bullet, to say that there was, that was the one that caused everything.
A listener says, tremendous city employee work during very cold conditions when everyone else was home and not working. Thanks for the commitment. So I think that's the work of employees can't be overstated, and so, and by the way, I've always found you to be this way, very straightforward, very straight up guy. And you came in first thing you talked about was accountability, and you owned some things that, I mean, to me, you may have even over-owned. I'm not even sure that you're as responsible as we accepted. Do you want to take any credit or blame for the ERCOT situation? Is there any way that you can you clear up for people like why their electricity went out and how that's not a city of Victoria issue?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am definitely not interested in getting involved in that conversation. I mean, we have a sense of what happened and what was going on because we were having daily briefings that included reps from AP and BC and stuff like that. But I do think it's important to know that to reiterate that the city, really has no direct involvement, with electricity.
Right.
I mean, we're unique enough that we're involved with water. I mean, for those that have lived in other places, I mean, you would know that, like in San Antonio, where I lived for many years, I mean, if the city is not involved in water, then it's a completely different entity. San Antonio water system, right, has nothing to do with the city and the city manager and, the council, nothing to do with it. Or even in Brownsville, where I grew up, Brownsville Public Utilities Board, I mean, it's not the city of Brownsville. And so, with us, we're already involved in the utility business with water. But we're definitely not involved with electrical. We're not involved with gas, and so I do think it's important to reiterate that. But again, I'll reiterate the point that I made earlier, though, that we, because of what we learned in Harvey, we have the generators, and part of our storm preparations leading into the winter storm was ensuring that the generators were operational, that we had the fuel, et cetera, et cetera. Because anytime that we're approaching some type of storm situation, because of Harvey, we're obviously very mindful of the electrical part of the equation.
Sure.
To ensure that, we don't experience that again.
I will give a quick shout out to the folks at BEC. My in-laws live on property, and they had a scheduled call where the folks at BEC had said, hey, look, you've got a line. It's kind of being encroached upon by these oak trees. If it's okay, we'll come out and trim them up for you, and we'll haul it all off and do all that. And they were like, sure, whenever you want to. Wake up one morning, it's 15 degrees outside, and they're out there with chainsaws and a cherry picker trimming those trees. So they want to make sure also they kept the weight off those power lines, and our utilities folks do a great job.
Is that a direction the city's moving, to bury some power lines underground to avoid those tree limbs that, those instances that a tree limb crashes in a Harvey and, a whole neighborhood?
Obviously in new developments, it's much easier to do that. So definitely in new developments, we do have those requirements that within the subdivisions that, utilities are buried underground. And that, there's pros and cons to every situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And you see it, right? I mean, if you go to some of the neighborhoods up north,
correct,
you begin to see that. For example, where we opened up Plaza de Benavides, we also created a Plaza de Benavides design district that also incorporates some elements of requirements of buried utilities because it looks horrible. I mean, you drive down Navarro, and you have pole pollution, you have water pollution, and it takes away from some of the aesthetics of the buildings that you drive by because you're just driving by a bunch of poles.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. And I think homeowners and property owners will have learned lessons this time around as well. Probably learning that maybe their home builder or business builder didn't put the insulation in that they said they were going to, or bury the water lines as deep as they thought. So I think, there's going to be, homeowners have some tough lessons learned and some responsibility as well. But a lot of people, I think, at times have unfairly blamed the city for their problems with this. Well, I drove around and didn't see any city crews out. Well, did you drive? I mean, yeah, come on, really?
Every single street.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was one I was like, really? You drove around and didn't see a crew out, so you're going to base your impression on that. That's your that bothered me, because I know just because they may not have been on a street doesn't mean they weren't somewhere else trying to fix a problem, right?
Matt Ogre points out PEX. That's one thing we've seen, improvements in building materials also, that these PEX lines and things are flexible. And a couple of quick hits that I thought of. HEB got some love over the weekend. There was a store that folks were in. There was a crowded HEB store, people doing their last second prepping, if you will, and the electricity went out. And HEB said, hey, we have no way to check you out, but we don't want you to be without. And they let those people take their groceries and leave without paying. I found that Texas spirit from a Texas-based company, 160,000 employees at HEB. That compare that to what you see in other states and up north, and realize that I know you work closely with Chief Arredondo, who's a friend of the show. We've enjoyed getting to know the chief. We didn't have looting and rioting and stealing and people breaking into things in Texas. I think it was too cold, but it's kind of a unique thing, don't you think? I mean, it's an interesting fact that Texans seem to pull together for the common good as opposed to taking advantage of situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we try and practice what we preach to at the city. So for example, we waive the fees for the meter shutoffs. We're currently working on a program to help alleviate any potential increases in water usage bills. So, for example, one of the things that the city did after Harvey was we simply took some averages from previous years and billed
based on that.
Yeah, based on that. And so we're looking at doing something similar because we recognize that folks had bursts, that et cetera, that were just unique circumstances. And so we'll continue to try and see what we can do to help. Because we absolutely want to take care of each other, and that also means taking care of our own employees. And so we're evaluating our policies to ensure that our employees that sacrifice so much on the personal side to give back and put us back in business, that they're also properly appreciated from the city.
Yeah, Matt Oker sums that up pretty well. He says, I had contractors that didn't show up because of their issues, but I can guarantee city and county workers are out there doing the things they were required to do.
Absolutely. I was actually talking to the police chief and fire chief last night, and they were saying that they literally had everybody show up for their shifts. And so I think that shows, dedication, regardless of what might be going on. And the same applies to our utility department. They were really, in this scenario, they were the frontline employees, really utility workers that came in and they were working long days. And they would even tell me, when I would run into them, man, I'm tired. I need to go home because I don't have power and my family, I'm worried about my family. And it's tough to hear that, right? Because obviously, you empathize with their situation, but they sacrifice so much to help us get back online.
One of our buddies, Clayton Meyer, says here, it's hard to run on ice while you're carrying a TV. So there is some legitimacy to that. But
let's take a break.
Okay, you got time?
Yeah, we got time.
Stick around for a few minutes. Okay. Well, we're talking about the Atzenhofer dealership. Since 1926, Victoria's dealer where you need Chevy, Cadillac, Mazda, Mitsubishi, pre-owned, paint and body shop. They service all makes and models. They are the complete car dealer. We say they stack them deep and sell them cheap. They're just down the road from higher prices. What else, Ash?
Well, you could have surfed if you had power and internet. You could have still been surfing Atzenhofer.com while inconvenienced by this weather event. So Tommy
Taylor says they're selling cars like candy bars, and if you don't buy them today, they'll be there tomorrow. So
White Trash Services, 550-1826 for all your trash collection needs.
Wait, you could just could you sign? Maybe you could sign the commercials.
Yeah, this is not an endorsement. This is not an endorsement.
550-1826, White Trash Services. You need a dumpster. You're doing a big renovation. You're going to build
Spring
a house.
cleaning is coming up.
Reach out, 550-1826. We're very hopeful that White Trash Services gets a contract with our great city in the days ahead. Razor IP Solutions,
IT Solutions, not IP. They probably can help your IP.
He can find your IP address and help you with your analytics and your data.
Make sure others don't find it as well.
Right. Keep China, Russia, and India out of your business. If they get in your business, reach out to the law offices of Steve Kidder. Stephen Kidder can help you with everything from family law to wills and trusts to
civil suits for somebody who's breached your data.
Fat kids, sissy kids, kids that climb on rocks. He can do it all. Reach out to Stephen Kidder at the law offices of Stephen Kidder. And then Complete 360. Now, hey, Jesus, this will matter to you. You're a fit guy. I see you walking. You work out. Right over here next to Woodlawn Bowl on Red River is a new Complete 360. It's a nutrition shop. Vitamins, smoothies, and all that. But they also make paninis where they've got everything. It's all, the macros are all done and all that. It's a fantastic place where you want. Dawn and I went in there and split a turkey panini that was phenomenal. And then they also have a flour-free, gluten-free waffles that are infused with fruit. It's a phenomenal spot. Highly recommend that. It's the sister to the store that's up by Buffalo Wild Wing. There's a Complete 360 up there as well. So Brandon does a great job. They've opened a second location, and the reviews have already been crazy over here. So go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check it out.
Get some landscaping companies as sponsors, man.
They're going to be busy now. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, we're going to get Matt Boucher in here and talk about Patrick Strauss and him and Lori went Saturday.
Great food. He and Lori went on Saturday. Yeah, it is a great spot.
You don't get as fit as Jesus by walking.
No, he works out. Don't forget he's 20 years younger than us, too. I mean, he's a young man. So, he's like, yep, I'm young. Yep. You old guys, what are you doing?
What's next? Is the city going to continue their daily briefings?
No. So we're not going to continue our daily briefings. At this point, excuse me. At this point, as it relates to the situation, we're going to go all in, trying to assess what occurred exactly, and truly rule out, whether there's a silver bullet, if they're not, to what extent were these gauge issues. It'll probably be very difficult, to say, oh, well, it was, 30% this and 40% that or whatever. But of course, the big thing that we're looking for are, areas of improvement, things that we need to invest in to ensure that we're prepared for something like this. And a lot of the articles that I've been reading, that I've been circulating, that not only talk about the electrical issues, but even the water supply issues. are, the challenge of, investing to weatherproof something that, that just doesn't happen very often, and the challenges of that. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But that'll be our next step, is that evaluation process. And so the way that we'll be transparent and accessible with that information will be through City Council. And so we'll be making our reports to City Council at City Council meetings about, just what we come across, what we need to invest in, things of that sort. We have our traditional budget development process has already commenced. And so we typically, propose our budget to council in the summer for our fiscal year that starts October 1. And so I envision that, we'll try and get this process done as quickly as possible. So if there are things that we need to incorporate into that budget, we do so.
Will those reports also be made available through the city website and other places other than just City Council?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not certain how formal, this report will be. It might simply be a PowerPoint presentation with bullet points and, and things like that. But yeah, absolutely. That would be public information, and we can certainly make that accessible. Absolutely.
We might be missing an opportunity, Ash, to capitalize as a city on, maybe we could turn City Council meetings into kind of a mini series on the Victoria Regional Network that Jesus has created. We could do like tune in Tuesday to see if the city manager snaps at Ricky De La Garza. We could kind of
just teasers,
right?
Yeah, I mean, if we can monetize it,
that's what I'm thinking, right? And put the money into the parks or whatever. We can do whatever makes sense. I like it if we can monetize it. You gotta like to see he's thinking.
Decatur Joseph has a question that's not related to the recent weather event, but he asked, what about the various master plans that the city has going on, and how can citizens participate?
Yeah, great question. So we are currently going through master plans. One of the big things that I push with staff and with council is this concept of just being resilient. And that can be a very overused cliche word, but that's what we're trying to do, right? I mean, pre-storm is, because of the pandemic, let's not forget, that's still going on.
Other than that, right?
And so for us, it was, let's push forward with our master plans. Let's push forward with investing in what we need to invest in and figure out. Let's not let the pandemic, slow us down. And so we did embark on the downtown master planning process, the parks master plan. We have a drainage master plan that's going on, a thoroughfare master plan. People can get information at our website, victoriatx.gov/masterplans, and they can get information on all of those master plans, copies of the presentations that have been given on those master plans, surveys. We already completed the survey process for the downtown master plan, but the surveys are still up for the parks master plan. And so there'll be a generic survey for the entire park system, but also a specific one for Riverside Park, Holy Tracy Park on the north side, and MLK Park on the south side. And people can also submit their comments on the thoroughfare master plan, which helps us get a sense of the flow of our street grid and the network and just flow of everything. And then drainage master plan, of course, helps us better understand that. A couple of these master plans hadn't been formally updated in almost 20 years. And so for us, it was important to really kind of catch that up, right? And so, but definitely, again, victoriatx.gov/masterplans for more information on those.
How's the Crestwood project progressing versus the timeline you had established and the way that, according to plan? How's that Crestwood project doing?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's doing well. Early on in the pandemic, we did have to push out the timing of when we did these projects to simply align them with a better cash flow for us, because you may recall that early on there were a lot of uncertainties about sales tax revenue, and a lot of these major thoroughfare commercial retail corridors are funded through our Sales Tax Development Corporation.
Right.
And so there was an intentional effort to just think more strategically about how the timing of the rollout of these projects. But aside from that, everything is continuing to roll smoothly. We are thankfully our sales tax revenue is coming in better than what we budgeted for, but still not as good as last year, right? I mean, our sales tax revenue is coming in at levels that we saw, 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And so while it might be better than what we budgeted, since we always take a very conservative approach, it's still very behind compared to where we've been the last several years.
Well, if there's any good news on the back end of this freeze, it might be made up this past weekend with PVC pipe sales, home building supplies, and appliances, because there was very little of any of that. I saw it flying. I saw the PVC flying out.
the big thing that everybody needs to keep an eye on, and I would encourage you if you ever have.
Hang on, caller.
Go for it.
No, keep going, and we'll give the call right after this.
Is this concept of the Wayfair bill? I don't know if you've heard about that or not, but currently when people order something online, like on Wayfair, that sales tax goes to the point of origin, right? And so, if you order something here, we don't get that sales tax. And so there has been an effort by the state comptroller's office to change that so that it starts at origin. Sorry, I think I used the word origin earlier. I meant where the order
it's fulfilled.
It's fulfilled, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
Or the order's placed, right? Yeah.
And so that'll change drastically, right? Because there's obviously a lot of folks that order stuff online instead of going to a store here, and we don't get that sales tax. And so,
they're going to redistribute that, maybe?
Yeah. So the intent is for it to be focused on origin and not on fulfillment.
That would be awesome, because there's some little place that has Amazon in their backyard, and they ain't got no sales tax up there because they're getting a whole bunch of it.
Craig Simpson comments here: update your disaster recovery plans and business continuity plans to not only government but also for small business and other businesses as well.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I'm certain that Rick at our office of emergency management is already putting a lot of thought into just winter storm. It shouldn't come as a shocker to everybody that 95% of our attention is focused around hurricane season.
Oh, yeah,
that's Rick McBrayer, and he does a great job.
Yeah, and Craig knows, because he lived through that firestorm in Fort McMurray, Alberta, about 3 years ago. So he understands. He was evacuated.
We have a caller.
Yeah, we do.
Call back, caller. Chances are they're going to ask us for a birthday shout out for somebody. Here we go.
All right. Good morning, Wade and Carter.
Good morning, Wade and Carter. Oh. Uh-huh. What a fantastic thing. Is that this week or today, or what do you tell me? Wow. Denny's.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Get this on the webpage. Awesome. Right, they just identify themselves when they come in.
Make them show an ID.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
That's great. So Denny's just called. Said from now till June, all city employees, she said, from the receptionist all the way to the city manager, including first responders, power line people, go in, show them your ID. Was it 25% off? 25% off at Denny's. So that's good stuff. Very nice.
Gets you a lot of moons over Miami.
I tell you what, yeah, we're on. It's good. Let's see if we got another person to go. Then it's like getting 4 for the price of 3.
There we go.
Works out. Oh, there's Brother Man. Brother Man is and there's the Hall of Famer Ralph Salazar strolling in. That lets us know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Hang on one sec. Tell you about our friend Dana Moore de la Garza, Ricky de la Garza's wife, is she's really your go-to, your one-stop shop for all of your future needs. If you want to prepay for a funeral, if you want to find a funeral plot, you want to decide what kind of coffin you want to be cremated, you want all your plans laid out. It's things we don't talk about. So why talk to more than one person? If you can talk to Dana Moore and de la Garza and get it over with, talk to her, let her solve your problem. Let her help you out. You can prepay this, get it all out of the way.
There's no reason to talk to anybody else.
No, she's got the entire shop. Terry Murray, Model Mortgage. Reach out to Terry today.
Conventional, FHA, VA financing, reverse mortgages for all your mortgage needs.
Refinance.
They are locally owned and operated. They have Terry has access to a whole bunch of different lenders, so she can find a very competitive rate for your buying situation and help you fulfill your home ownership dreams. Reach out to our friend Carl Went Services, Went Generators, Went Electrical, Went Plumbing. You got plumbing issues, you need somebody to come out and fix a faucet or fix something, call Went today. They will come out today. Reach out to Went. USA Concrete Coatings, 578 Home. Charlie Garcia can lay down a polyurethane that's
antimicrobial, antibacterial. It's going to have the colors you want. You can recover a garage floor, porch, patio, walkway, pool deck.
Anything.
They do it all.
They can do it all.
If your kid sits still, cover that kid in polyurethane. They ain't going to hurt him. Reach out to the Gray Barn, 920-6803. Let Cheryl help you plan your next party. 920-6803.
And to get to that party, call Bob Constantine, Texas Coast Limousine.
Fantastic. Bob can pick you up. He's got up to 28 passengers. Bob can pick up 28 people, take them all to Denny's, and only 21 of them have to pay. Think about that.
There you go.
It's a great
Wearing
deal.
masks, obviously.
Wearing masks. We socially distance. We're very careful. Yeah.
575 limo is the number to call.
How are you feeling, Mr. Garza, about what's going on with, I mean, not social distancing, but how are things at the city affected by the pandemic? Tell us something like, well, here's something people might not have thought about. Because I think people we go through our day, we're all very self-centered. We all very much care about how we get what we need. How is this pandemic still affecting the city? Or do y'all have a routine now where everything's good?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much rocking and rolling. I think early on, with all the uncertainty about, how many feet do you have to stay away from somebody? Do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? How many days do you need to stay home? I mean, there was just a lot of unknowns. And so early on, there was definitely a period of, okay, well, how are we going to operate? Thankfully, we had begun investing in technology because, again, that's something that from day one I've been pushing for. And so thankfully, for the most part, we were set up in a good spot to be able to, automatically, quickly, I should say, start meeting virtually, and things of that sort. And so, if you think about it, we only shut down our physical city locations for about a month and a half. We literally only went from mid-March-ish to the end of April. That's it. I mean, come May, we were open, rocking, and rolling.
Right.
Our biggest operation that was of concern was the library, because obviously there's a lot of people that go into the library every day. But aside from that, we figured out a way to operate. The situation forced us to be better at doing things electronically. So, for example, it used to be that you had to go in person to set up a water account.
Right.
The situation forced us to figure that out, online, right? And well, that's to stay, right? Why go back to, just requiring that happen in person to make any sense, right? And so, in a way, it's making everybody, I think, invest and have technology options that maybe we didn't have before. And so, I think that's only going to make us, stronger as we continue to go through this.
Well, he actually lives out in the county, but I do go to the webpage now. I do a one-click pay for my water bill. I get an email, your utility bill is ready, and it says click here to pay. I click that little green button. I pay it with one click of I just, say, yes, I'm ready to pay it. It's awesome. That's the way to do it.
If I send you a request on Venmo, will you just click it?
I might, just out of responsibility. Yes, sir. I might do that for you.
Sense of habit now, right?
Yeah.
Pat McDonald, great friend of the show, just came in and said, hey, everything's great. The city's done a great job. The trash truck even came just on time. So,
yeah,
good deal.
Kudos to that crew.
Wow.
They literally, they only didn't go out on Monday. They literally, beginning Tuesday of last week, started doing their normal routes. And to the point to where people that were on the normal recycling route on Tuesday, on the 16th, didn't expect it. So they didn't put the bins out. So they had to run that route yesterday. But, Daryl Lisak and his team over there at Environmental Services,
Daryl never sleeps.
He also was one of our executives that mentioned to me that he had everybody show up. And this was, again, Tuesday, Wednesday. This was right in the middle
of it all, yeah.
That's awesome. Until you've seen a guy drift a 10,000-pound trash truck on ice, you haven't lived. It's like ice road truckers. They came in the cul-de-sac.
Maybe we should have recorded that a long time.
We can find a way to do that, right?
Yeah. We need to create our own Parks and Rec. We'll just call it something else.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got his mind. He's thinking, how can we monetize
this?
Could we make a buck off the city council meetings? We need more controversy at city council.
Yeah,
that would do it.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Nothing gets hits like those parliamentary videos from Korea where they're fighting with each other.
Stand up and bang your shoe on the desk, just do something, outrageous.
Jumping off the dais onto somebody else. It was awesome.
Well,
yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
To wrap up a Monday, thank you very much for coming in. I didn't know, I told you, I did not know what we were going to see, but the overwhelming response of all of our listeners has been, hey, great job, way to go, City of Victoria. I am proud of everybody that we didn't have any of the criminal activity that is so often associated with people being disrupted from their daily routine. It's not usually a good thing to have folks cooped up at home for a week at a time. Bad things often happen. So but on your end, thanks for everything you guys have done.
Absolutely. And again, really, our utility employees were really at the front line of this storm and crisis for us, if you will. One last thought, I'll leave you with a silver lining, that yesterday our community reached the 7th day point below 15% for hospitalization rate for COVID. And so now restaurants can increase capacity, bars can open up. And so there is a silver lining of, the last week and everybody being cooped up at home was the fact that our hospitalization rate for COVID went down. And so we're now no longer under those more hardcore restrictions from the state.
Fantastic.
And that's something that comes from the governor, not local. And so if there is a silver lining, it's that hopefully that continues to trend downward. And we do plan on picking back up the COVID vaccine clinics this week. And so hopefully we'll put out, through the health department, obviously, put out information later today on that.
Great.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Great.
Thanks for
Jesus,
joining
thank
us.
you very much. Appreciate
Anytime you have
today.
anything you want to share, we'd love to be part of your format. We don't monetize this to you. You won't get much of a bill in the mail. And we appreciate your time, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you. Hey, y'all be safe out there today. We'll talk to you manana. Thanks.
Bye, folks.
And the water's good to drink.